All right, welcome. So we are continuing our conversation about ecology, and we're looking today at man's dominion and ecology. So the first lecture yesterday was just terms from ecology. Now we're going to get into what we do about this because we're Christians. And as I said before yesterday, we need more Christians in ecology. If you are at all thinking about a career in the sciences, can I encourage you to enter this line of work? The field of ecology is exciting, and there's a lot of money going into it. There are a lot of jobs for ecologists, and there's a lot of pantheist, pagan sort of people doing it right now who just are studying it with such a warped worldview. We need to bring dominion back into the world of ecology. So it's an important field that we should be studying. So take a moment and write this down. Okay, so our dominion is based on Scripture. And I'm going to talk to you about man's role in ecology today from the perspective of dominion, because this is the clearest point where biology intersects our understanding of dominion. Genesis 1:26 and 28 both tell us that mankind has dominion over the earth. God, when he decides to make man, he says, let us make man in our own image, let him rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and things of that nature. And then later on, he tells man specifically, fill the earth, subdue it, and husband it. And so we have dominion over the earth. That is our position with regard to creation. Genesis 2:15 commands man to work and keep the earth. So this is before the fall. Working the earth and keeping it and caring for it is part of the perfect design of God. Being out in the field, working in the ground, is not a part of sin. That's a part of what we're supposed to do. That's our design. Lots of places in Scripture instruct us to care for the creatures of the earth in a sustaining way. One of these interesting examples is Deuteronomy 22:6 and 7, and I think I'm going to put that up here in a moment. But yeah, hunting is part of God's design, and it is to be done in a sustaining way. So that rooster that's outside my bedroom window that I intend to kill, that's part of God's perfect will, and I need to go eat him. And so hunting in a sustaining way is part of what God intended us to do, right? So here's the scriptures I referenced. God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. And then just a little bit later it says, God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and every living thing that moves on the earth. So we have this position of dominion. This is part of what God intends man to do. This is why we were made, is to have dominion. Now, dominion does not mean slaughter and destroy, right? It's the concept of headship. And if you think about a family, a man has headship in his home. But that is not a license for him to be abusive. That's not the point, right? A man has headship in a home so that he can look after, care for, and manage his home in a way that his wife and his children are delightful people and love each other and love him and respect him, and they all are a picture of what God has intended us to be, right? So that's the sense of dominion. We are to care for the earth, and yes, we manage it, and yes, we are over it, but we're supposed to do it in a way that honors God with what he's entrusted to us, right? Genesis 2:15 says the Lord took man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. So working and keeping the earth is part of the perfect pre-fall design of God. Deuteronomy 22:6 and 7 is after the fall, but it is still the intention of God. Here's an example. If you come across a bird's nest in any tree or on the ground with young ones or eggs, and the mother sitting on the young or in the eggs, you shall not take the mother with the young. You shall let the mother go, but the young you may take for yourself, that it may go well with you and that you may live long. So you're out and you're gathering eggs, right? We do that. Hey, look, there's some eggs. you're not supposed to get the mother bird and eat the mother bird with her young. Not because chicken with a side of eggs is a sin, but the concept here is that this is husbandry of the earth, right? If you kill the mother and you take the eggs, then you've removed that generation from the species, right? But if you only take the young, then the mother can have more babies, right? Or if you let the babies grow up and the babies aren't in the nest, then you can take them up, because then the babies are out there going to grow up and have more babies, right? So the principle is husband your resources, take care of your resources so that you can gather things long term and you don't, rape and pillage the environment. That's not the point. So we have to fall somewhere in between some extremes. We have to find a balance between worshiping creation and ignoring its well-being. There is one extreme that's out there, and this term was coined in the 1940s, so it's a pretty old term, but it's becoming more and more popular. Deep ecology, where we study and we take care of the environment more than just we should take care of this so that we can keep eating chickens, right? Or so that we can keep having fresh water, or we can keep having clean air. The deep ecology, it turns into worship of the earth, right? If you ever heard of people who talk about Gaia, has that ever come up in your world? Yeah, people who say, and there's even on Earth Day, right? Earth Day is, if you celebrate Earth Day and you're like, we should take care of our rivers and streams, that I agree with that. But Earth Day is actually like this deep ecology thing where we're going to honor Gaia as the goddess of the earth. So be careful with all of the crazy Earth Day stuff. We don't worship the earth. The earth is not God. Gaia, the spirit of the earth, is a pagan deity that has become the goddess of extreme ecology. And people who are nuts about the environment, they aren't doing it to perpetuate a good place to live. They're doing it because it's actually become a religion to them. And so that's deep ecology. We do not acknowledge deep ecology because we are in dominion over the earth. We are not submitted to the earth, right? In deep ecology, the value of the environment is more valuable than mankind. And the environment is above man. In dominion, we are above the environment. Now, we want to take care of the environment because it feeds us and it provides our life, and because God told us to. But in the hierarchy of importance, we are higher than ecology. Mankind is more important than streams and rivers. Okay, we want clean streams and rivers. God told us to keep the rivers and streams clean, but it's not as important to me. Okay. The opposite of that, and sadly, a lot of Christians fall into this camp. The opposite extreme is it's all going to burn anyway, so why care, right? Especially people that are Christians with a very imminent eschatology, where you believe Jesus is coming back like tomorrow or sometime within the next 5 or 6 years. If you are an imminent return of Christ person, which Calvary Chapel is an imminent return of Christ church. We believe that Jesus is coming back, and probably very soon. But to be fair, Pastor Chuck has been preaching that since the 70s. So don't go sell all of your real estate and don't go, on top of a mountain and wait for Jesus to show up, because it might not be tomorrow. But it will be soon. We believe it will be soon. Sadly, some Christians of our persuasion that think that the return of Christ is very soon, they look at the environment and they say, oh, Jesus is going to destroy it. Like, we're out of here very soon. And 7 years after that, Jesus comes and he fixes it all. So really, why are we worried about the rivers and the streams and the air and global warming? It's all going to burn. Don't stress about it. Unfortunately, that's a terrible witness to the world. Terrible witness to the world. Because they look at Christians and they think Christians are abusive to the environment. We do need to present dominion because that's right, but we don't need to present ignorance or apathy towards the environment, right? So we need to find a balance there. Mankind is a consumer manager. Consumers use the resources made available by other organisms. We are a consumer. We are not a producer. You can't stick your feet in the dirt and go like this and be full, okay? So we do eat things. It would be really cool if we could. But we do eat things. So we kill things to eat them. And vegetarians and vegans are like, oh, don't kill. You know, that's terrible. Well, you just killed your salad. So we kill things when we eat. It's part of the way God made us. So we are consumers. But we don't need to be, you know, raiders of the environment. Managers choose how to use resources and are free to make changes to meet their goals. I used to manage a PetSmart. And I had 23 employees, and I had a couple of $1 million budget, and I had to buy resources, and I had to hire people, and I had to fire people, and I had to decide when we were open and when we were closed, and all that kind of stuff, right? I was a manager. I had a set of resources, and I had to take those resources and make the store go. And that's what a manager does. We are consumers, and we are managers. So we are in charge of the stuff that we need to live. Right? We kill food when we eat it. And so we need to make sure that we still have food to eat tomorrow. So we need to manage our resources in a way that continues to meet our needs. And we need to manage our resources in a way that meets our children and grandchildren's needs. Right? If we don't discover better ways to farm and make better use of the farmland that's on the earth, then we will stop feeding people because the population keeps growing. So management and consuming, we need to put those two together. So this is a quote. This is a quote from Deep Ecology, people, and I want to just expose you to it so that you see how weird it is, right? So spirituality is to do with our inner sense of connection with something larger than ourselves and with our relationship with what we see as sacred. This can give our lives a sense of meaning and purpose beyond the material success, and those special moments where we feel that connection more deeply can provide an important source of strength in difficult times. So this is their religion, right? This is religion that they're talking about. If we see ourselves as part of the tree of life, the interconnected web of beings we call Gaia, then a deep ecological approach to spirituality might emphasize our relationship with this larger whole. We may look at life as being sacred and see the possibility of the larger force of life acting through us in our work for Earth recovery. This life-centered spirituality can be an important source of inspiration to face and respond to the problems of our world. This is not good, right? These are people who worship the earth, who worship the interconnectedness of life, who worship ecology. This is not what Christians should get into. When I tell you, I hope some of you become ecologists. I hope that you become ecologists so that you can counterbalance the nut jobs that believe this, right? Because we need Christians who understand dominion to be working on ecology. Here's another picture. If you search for Gaia in Google Images, Gaia is pictured as a goddess, and it's a pagan goddess of the earth. And she is usually pictured as being part of nature, you know, trees for her hair and butterflies for her ears and rainbows. Yeah, so it's Mother Nature, right? So these are images of what people.
So do people like talk to trees?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're very like spiritual and everything, right?
Yep, and now these are scientists, right? These are ecologists who have turned their ecology into worship of the earth. It's weird. It's weird. We, however, have a different perspective. We believe that God made everything, that it all is in His hands, but that He has entrusted it to us to ask us to husband it. So the difference is we believe God is outside of and above creation, right? And the Gaia people are that the goddess is within creation, and like she is a part of it, right? The concept of transcendence is what makes us different. So Christians get into this sense of doomsday is coming. The whole earth is going to be destroyed. So why do we care? Why should we worry about cleaning up pollution? Why should we worry about rolling back global warming? Why should we worry about all of those things when God's just going to destroy the planet soon? That is not, first of all, we don't know when that's going to happen. We believe it's soon, but soon could be 100 years from now, right? And we don't know for sure, the timeline. And it's a terrible witness to people out there because they think that we don't care about our environment, and we can get charged with dominion. So we need to project a sense of dominion. And dominion doesn't mean rape and pillage. Dominion means husband, care for, shepherd. The riders of the apocalypse are coming. Revelation 4. Revelation 4. The riders of the apocalypse are coming, but that doesn't give us license to destroy the earth before they get here, right? So we need to realize that we are consumers and we are managers. And we do eat things and we consume resources from the earth, but we have to manage our resources in a way that allows us to keep having them. So ecology and management is important. So we can call shots and we can make game changes, not to switch analogies. If you're a coach and your strategy is not working, you call an audible and you change the plan and you try something else, right? Right now, our management of the earth is broken in many regards. We are screwing up the planet. I will agree with the nut jobs, at least in that much. We need to do things differently. But it's not because we worship the earth, it's because we manage the earth. And so it's time for Christians to step into this and say, let me go get the doctorate degree in ecology. Let me figure out as much as I can about how we're breaking things. And let me, from a perspective of dominion, say, let me step in and help fix this problem, because God has charged us with dominion. And we need to make some changes in how we are doing this, right? So take a second, write that down. So natural resources are from God. He has built the environment to sustain life. And fresh water and food and arable land is a gift of God to man. And it is something we need to manage. Wisdom is needed as we manage our resources. And when in South America, where slash and burn farming is what they do, that is not good use of resources. And we are destroying one environment to make farmland, but we're not maintaining the farmland that we have. And so they keep destroying more forests to make more farmland that they then ruin. So we've made mistakes in managing our resources, and we can't go back in time. Gosh, I wish life had a skip back button like a YouTube video. I wish we could skip back and do things differently. That would just be awesome. But unfortunately, we can't. Mistakes have been made, and we are standing at this particular point in history where the environment is getting warmer. I don't understand why Christians preach against global warming as if it's not happening. It is. We don't need to freak out and think that it's outside of God's control, but we do need to step in as managers and say, we're going to do that. How are we going to exercise dominion here? So mistakes have been made. What should we do about it? What shall we do as managers of the earth, right? So we need Christians in this world, in this study, in this discipline. We need Christians talking to our politicians as scientists and saying, okay, we need to fix this, but not because the earth is God. We need to fix this because God has asked us to manage this for as long as time. Overpopulation is a concern, legitimately a concern. The rate of population growth is rapidly increasing, and so it gives us a concern for food production. And since I wrote this lecture last year, I have discovered that they think we'll run out of fresh water before we'll run out of food. fresh water will actually probably be the first thing that becomes a problem. And concern for economic resources. People will probably run out of money as well to buy and ship food. So Hawaii is a great example of that. We don't, like I said this yesterday, we don't make everything we need for us on this island. Most of what we need on this island comes from somewhere else. So we are way a consumer with regard to our resources here. And if Hawaiians ever couldn't afford the grocery bill, and people stop paying for things to be shipped here, and people have to start growing it in their backyard garden, they're going to die because there's not enough room on this island for us to grow our own food here. So this is a big problem, and you can see it in island communities, but eventually it's going to be a problem not just in island communities, but even in mainland communities. So overpopulation is a big deal, and I'll show you some graphs in a minute. And this is something that Christians need to be aware of, that when one person marries one person and they have 2 children, they have replaced themselves, right? When they die, these 2 people replace them. 0 population growth. When 2 people marry and have 5 children, these 2 die, and there are 3 more. The population has just grown by 50%. It's grown by 250%, right? So this generation is 250% larger than the generation above it. When those 5 people marry 5 more people, so now you've got 10, and each of those couples has 5 kids, right? You see how this extrapolates into big numbers real quick. So on my mom's side of the family, it's a smallish family. My grandfather was the only child of his parents. My grandmother was the only child of her parents. So 4 parents had wound up with 2 kids. That's population shrinkage. My grandparents married, they have 3 kids, but each of those 3 kids, they married, so there's 6 in that generation. But I am one of 9 cousins. So our family is growing on that side, but not like freakishly fast, but we're growing on that side of the family. The other side of the family, my grandfather is one of 13.
Wow.
How many cousins does my dad have? My dad has about 75 cousins because there were 13 children from the grandfathers, right? How many second cousins do I have? I don't know, but I have found close to 300 on Ancestry, right? So I am one of at least 300 that are from my great-grandparents. So on that side of the family, we're freaking exploding, okay? So population growth is a problem because 4 generations ago on my dad's side of the family, there were 2 people to feed. Now there are 300 people to feed, right? So it's crazy. It's crazy. So overpopulation is a problem. So as we manage the earth, we have to see that water and soil and things like that are from God. These are gifts of God that are examples of His love and His kindness and His provision. And then we do stuff like this with it. This is slash and burn farming in South America. And what they do is they say, I need more farmland. So instead of trying to take good care of the farmland they have and make it more productive, they go to the forest, they burn down a piece of forest, and they till the ash into the soil. And that's good farming soil for about 5 or 6 years, but they're bad at managing it. So 5 or 6 years from now, they haven't put anything back in the ground. They don't manage their soil well. So it starts to peter out and not be good farmland anymore. So then they burn down more forest, till the ash into the ground, and farm again. And so the slash and burn farming, they're turning rainforest into farmland and farmland into desert because they're destroying their soil. All that needs to happen is people, Christians and ecologists, who know how to maintain dirt need to go educate South American farmers on how to take the tens of thousands of acres that used to be rainforest, that is now desert, and turn it back into farmland. Here's what you do with your dirt, right? And then they can go farm their desert, and you don't need to burn down any more forests. Like, people don't need to go chain themselves to trees and say, oh, don't burn down the spirit of the trees. That's crap, right? They need to go educate the farmer. We need to help Dominion get back to what it should be. So this poor guy, he's a subsistence fisherman, but we've polluted the rivers and lakes that he fishes, and so all the fish are dying. But the guy only knows how to provide for his family by fishing, so he's eating polluted fish, and I'm sure he's sick, and I'm sure he's got cancer. But that's what he knows how to do. And the environment around him is killing the fish that his life is based on. And so we don't need to go, we don't need to go pray to the spirits of the river to get better, or we don't need to, do all these other crazy things. We need to figure out what's the pollution problem in the river and fix that. And we need to help this guy go get food somewhere else until the river is fixed, right? That's what we need to do. Christians need to step in and help Dominion, help manage the environment. These poor folks walking around in unbelievably bad air quality conditions. This particular picture is taken in China, where there's a lot of crap air, right? But it's happening all over the place. You know that in Los Angeles, they call days off of school because of air quality. They tell people, don't go outside. Stay inside and keep your air conditioning on because the air conditioning filters the air. Right? Please don't breathe today. So this is reality, right? And people need to figure it out. Now, here's a graph of world population through history. So now this is a graph made by people who don't believe in God. So it goes back to 2.5 million years ago. But still, the graph still works even if you cut it here, right? This is in billions of people. So we've got not billions of people. We've got, hundreds of thousands, millions of people for most of Earth's history. And when you follow it along, we have evidence of slight population growth, but not a lot of population growth because people are having babies, but sadly a lot of those babies die. And a lot of young people die in war and don't get to have children. And there's sickness and there's death and there's stuff that keeps populations down, right? The Black Death takes out a third of Europe, so we have a big drop in population. And then right after that, this thing called the Industrial Revolution happens. And people start to have medicine, and fewer people go to war, and fewer people die of disease. And so now all these babies live, which, praise Jesus, babies live. That's good. I'm not saying I want to kill babies. Don't hear me say that. But the things that push down on our population are removed. So look at what has happened from like 1600 to, this is projecting into the year 2025. So we're projecting 10 years in the future here. But it's gone from a couple of, from like a couple of 100 million people, like 300 or so million people, okay, to we are currently at about 7 billion, and by 2025 they're projecting us to be at 8 billion. 8 billion people instead of 300 or so million people worldwide. Like that's a growth from a third of a billion to 8 billion is a growth of 24 times, right? 2,400% growth in 500 years. 2,400% growth in 500 years. So you can see how we had farmland and resources, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, where am I going to get a carrot? Right? Like this is a problem. This is a problem. This is why for my family personally, I'm not giving you an instruction. For my family personally, my wife and I decided to have 2 kids. Okay? 2 people who die and have 2 kids have replaced themselves. It's a management decision for us. Okay? If we have more children, it will be by adoption. We hope in the near future to be able to adopt a whole pile of people. But they will not be genetic creatures that we made from our own loins, right? So, does that make sense? So, we're not against big families, and if you come from a big family, I'm not telling you that your parents made a mistake. You are not a mistake. But, as you have been called to manage, when you see this is a problem. And we need to figure out what we as Christians who've been called to manage the environment can do, right? So for my family, that's the decision we make. Here's the population growth by continent through history, okay? So Oceania, where we live, is an itsy-bitsy piece of the population. And we don't really know how long Oceania has had people. Some places for a while, but we don't really know for sure. North America is also a fairly small piece of the pie. So if we get all the Christians in America to manage their resources and manage their family size and help control population growth, that's good. But where we need to really be preaching this, if you look at Asia, Asia is from 2.5 billion to, when this chart was made in the year 2000, 6.5 billion. So 4 billion of the people on the planet, 2/3 of the people on the planet live here. So this is where we need to go talk about population control, right? This is where Christians need to go and not say, the earth is your God, worship the earth and have 2 children, right? But where we need to say, hey, look, we're in charge, we're managers. Be a manager, take care of your stuff. Maybe you don't need 13 children. Same, right? Maybe you don't. Or if you want 13 children, go adopt them. There's so many stinking orphans in the world. Go get an orphan, or 20. There's by population, Asia is the place where overpopulation is happening. The rest of the population growth we could probably manage. This population growth is just wonky. Wonky is the word I use. So, you want to catch a taxi in India?
Whoa.
Or catch a train in India? There's not enough seats inside the train. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit on the roof of the train.
Oh my goodness.
Or you're going to hang on to the side of the train.
Let's go to school.
Yeah. Too many people. Too many people. Okay. Pollution is a growing problem. So air pollution is a real thing. Water pollution is a real thing. For some reason, my text runs off the bottom there. Sorry. But again, we don't need to be like, oh, this is some spiritual problem. Well, it's a spiritual problem in the fact that we've been disobedient. God has called us to have dominion. We haven't managed it well. So we need to step up, and we need to be managers, and we need to fix the problem. Air pollution is a real thing. Industrial waste is a real thing. Clean burning power plants are replacing dirty power plants throughout the world, which is a good thing. I live right next door to a power plant. I live right next to the Eco plant in Pearl Harbor. And I see their smokestacks from my front door, and I watch all the stuff go up into the sky. But power plants today are very, very clean. And what they put up in the air is mostly, well, it is CO2, but it's mostly just CO2 and water vapor, as opposed to, it used to be all kinds of terrible chemicals that made acid rain and smog and all that kind of stuff. Now we're just creating global warming, but which is still a problem. But at least it's not gonna take the paint off your car or make you get cancer. But industrial waste still happens. Automobile exhaust, combustive engine exhaust is a huge problem. So the more people we can get to walk or ride their bikes or run or something like that to work, school, the better. The more people that buy, other kinds of vehicles, the better. But it is a problem we need to manage. Global warming is real. We need to manage it. Water pollution is real. Increase in technology and industrialization does cause toxic byproducts, and we do have issues that we need to fix. So don't fall into the camp of Christians that say, oh, it's all going to burn, don't worry about it. No, we need to fix these problems. But also don't fall into the camp of people that are so obsessed with it that it's become their faith. We need to find the common ground, being a consumer manager. I'm out of time, but I want to show you just a couple of pictures and then I'll let you go. So global warming, the greenhouse effect, carbon dioxide traps heat. So the more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the more of the sunlight that gets absorbed and does not reflect back out into space. And that's the reason that the Earth's atmosphere is getting warmer. So we need to be sure that things that we can control don't wind up in our oceans. I hate it when I go snorkeling and I see somebody's wrapper or something in the water. I always come back with pockets full of trash when I go snorkeling. Yeah, toxic stuff, oil, dog waste. I mean, it all gets in there. And pollutants tend to travel up food chains. So predators